This life is built, not fate. We do whatever it takes. Welcome to it.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the WIT podcast. As you guys know, WIT stands for whatever it takes. Brandon and I are going to go over some things with you guys today. I want to cover the homework real quick with you and just let you know, again, this is a podcast that we do. We don't have any sponsors, any of that stuff. So we need you guys to like, comment, share. We finally got live on iTunes. So what I'd love for you guys to do who are listening is go over, leave us a review, put a comment in the section and then share it out, right? The big way this podcast grows is people sharing it out. That's a big thing for us. If you guys can help us out there, and we'll just keep putting out more content and growing the show and having fun with it. Second thing we want you guys to know is it's a rated R podcast. It's listed in the explicit section of the podcast. That's for a reason. Sometimes we get on a roll. We drop an F-bomb here and there. We just want to make sure that you guys know that up front. If you guys are looking for something where that's not an issue, it's probably not going to be the podcast for you. But if you have kids in the car or whatever, just hit a timeout for now and come back and listen in a little while. So that being said, we have talked a lot about, in the first few episodes, about the mindset. We've talked to you guys about habits. We want to give you guys some nitty gritty today. And one of the things we're going to talk about is our experience in how do you actually grow and scale an organization? What does that look like, right? So obviously we're not going to get into like what I would label as like we're going to give you guys like the 5,000, 10,000, 30,000 foot view of it today. As we go along in this podcast, likely we'll get deeper. We'll like break it down and get deeper into the nuts and bolts of it and what that looks like. But today is kind of like, what does it take? I mean, like, what does it take mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually? And then honestly, like from a standpoint of like, what are some of the moving parts? Now, I'm definitely going to fire some things here at Brandon here in a second, because he's always giving you guys the nuggets and the good answers. But I also want you guys to know, we both have contracting backgrounds. Like that's, I know you do some stuff in real estate. I've done some miscellaneous projects, not in real estate, but our backgrounds are in construction. So some of what we talk about today is going to be very construction specific. But what I want you guys to listen to, for those of you who are not in construction, is how can you apply this in your own world, right? How can you take what we're talking about and how does it apply to you? Because some of the things are definitely applicable regardless of what business that you're in. So have an open mind with it. Don't hear something and then immediately put up a wall of like, that ain't going to work for me. But have an open mind with it and see if you can get something from it. So that being said, how's it going?
Going well. What up, man?
Yeah.
It's a good day. I'm ready. I'm ready. To piggyback off just what you were saying about, man, one thing that I feel like I did really good early on, just because I knew I wasn't the smartest, but I was just really able to stay focused on the connection. Whether it be I listening to a podcast or a speaker or a training, whatever it is, it really stay focused on the connection and the value. Like staying so focused on the value. You might say something I disagree with, but 2 minutes later you drop something that could change my life.
That's right.
Like John was saying, it's easy to go into a state, oh, that's cool, that worked for them, but that would never work for me, and this is why. But if we can just keep an open mind and stay focused on the connection, stay focused on the value, I think you can get a lot from it. It's man, when you told me the topic, I love this topic, just scaling, because it's scaling a business, because it's not easy, and like, what does it take from us? I remember, I used to ask that to myself, or if I was setting out a target, somebody would say, well, what's that going to take from you? And in my experience, and this is just my experience, it's taken everything. Yeah. It truly took everything that I had, in short. But it's such a it was such a wild adventure, and and at the same time I still feel like I'm just getting started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I am too.
Right.
I'm 25 years old, and I'm there's definitely days where I think we talk about this quite a bit, but I'm like, there's days where I think I kind of got it.
Yeah.
And then like something happens and it humbles the shit out of me, and I'm like, nah, I don't know.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to mention here too, that I hadn't put out there, is, obviously I shared I've been in prison, but I grew up in construction like my entire life. I started swinging a hammer when I was 15 years old, and I was a journeyman carpenter by the time I was 23, and I subcontracted a lot. And so throughout all of those things, man, I got a really good understanding. One, I could build a house from the ground up, and I got a really good understanding of the industry. And I learned a lot of what not to do.
Yeah.
As I was subcontracting, working for all these, different contractors, and so, some like us, man, they were all successful, really successful for periods of time that were short-lived.
Yep.
Because they all cut corners somewhere.
Yep.
They all did something. So I just learned a lot of what not to do as I was going through that, and me actually doing the work myself.
Yeah. That's a really good point to bring up is there are levels to this game.
100%.
You say that all the time, right? There are levels to this game. And I think we've talked about it a little bit before, but I often envision the growing and scaling thing as like climbing a mountain. And I had to go through that process. I mean, I'm obviously not at the top of the mountain, but in the different levels of the mountain, there's different challenges. And the challenges of when we first start and the challenges like when we get up a couple of levels, they're different. And honestly, I think most people believe that like, well, the further I go, the easier it's going to get, right? I have honestly heard many guys say, well, it's got to be a little easier at some point. It's like, no, actually the farther you go, the challenges get more intense based on your level and ability to handle the intensity, right? So I think honestly, looking back at it, I think getting a business off the ground is probably the easiest part. I don't even like the term easiest. I would say the simplest part. The challenges that we're facing today are just they're still hard as shit.
Yeah.
They're just different, right?
Yeah.
Like I would say we're pretty battle tested at this point. We handle a lot of pressure really, really well. But we're getting ready to take on a whole nother elephant, right? That's going to come with a whole set of pressure we've not dealt with. So, talk about that a little bit. Like, what's that been like for you?
Yeah. Well, it's like the thing that popped into my mind as you were saying that was new levels, new devils.
Yeah.
It's always, and the devil's always in the detail. I go back to, the first year it was me out there doing all the work. And then doing all the back end work at night. And then at the end of that first year, I put down the tool pouches for the most part and really just focused on building a brand and sales and marketing. And the reason I was doing that is because I wasn't happy. I didn't want to stay there. I wanted to scale. And so I really, in my mind, I had to break it down to the simplest form possible.
Yeah.
Because before that, we were doing kitchens, basements, decks, everything, any home remodeling we were doing. And so I broke it down to the simplest form possible, which was residential roofing, and really focused on getting those systems down and building a brand and actually specializing in something.
Yep.
Was what I wanted to do with that. And going throughout the years, is like, so going just from that level, each year has been a level, but going from me out there wearing my tool pouches on the site, 10, 12 hours a day, doing all the back end work at night to the next level. I think a lot of people that come from the trade specifically want to stay right there.
Yeah.
Where they're doing their own jobs, they're kind of in control of everything. They don't have hundreds of people putting them at risk every day, and they're good right there. And that's great for them. Not saying anything, there's nothing wrong with that. It just wasn't for me, and so it was like, okay, how do I get this to the simplest form possible and really specialize that? And that's what I did over the next couple of years. And each time it was like, like at that point I was focused on sales and marketing, and I got that down because at a point in time I had worked every position at the company. That's not the case any longer, but still the majority of them, and really seeing like, okay, getting the trials, the tribulations down. What does it take to win in this position? And then what are all the fears, the stresses that come with it, the problems, and really getting an understanding of those so I could train and coach somebody on how to deal with those and overcome those. But it was, man, one of the biggest things in scale for me, my personal story and like when we really went to that next level was when I really just had intentional focus about making it about everybody else. When I really got down and just like, okay, it's not about the money or what I'm gonna make. I just know if I make these people successful, I'm gonna be successful in return.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing with when guys start and I'll again speak for myself. When I first started as an entrepreneur, I'm like, oh, I'm going to have all the freedom.
Yeah.
I'm going to be able to make money. I'm going to be able to come and go when I want. It was just all a big story that I convinced myself was true. But then you get out and you start serving people and you realize this isn't about me at all.
Right.
And if I try to make it about me, then the people are going to see that it's disingenuous and they're going to smell it and they're going to be like, I don't want to deal with this guy because he's trying to get rich. Right.
Right.
Yeah, no. So how did you learn that though? Like that's when things change for you, but like, how did you learn where this is going to have to be bigger than me?
Yeah.
Right. I'm obviously you could make a good living. I mean, let's be real. In the construction industry, at like around 3 to 5 million, we're taking home, $500,000 or maybe a little more a year, right? That's pretty damn good money for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
So, and we could do a lot of things at that level, but when you're scaling, when you're growing a business to a much bigger level, how did you get to a space where you're like, I want to create something? You brought it up in this morning's meeting where I can retire a bunch of people, not just myself. How did you get there?
Yeah, man. So whenever I've really looked at this thing as a gift from the beginning that I just had to take care of, and cause it was, I just kept looking up like after 6 months, after a year, and just kind of amazed at what I was looking at and just really impressed, like first and foremost with God, but like, I just really underestimated the power of extreme work ethic, the power of extreme coachability, and like just the extreme willingness. And, it was like at that time, man, as we're going through these things and when it stopped being about me, it's like I'm making this money, making more money than I ever thought possible. And like more money I know what to do with, honestly. And to where it's like, I'm not even really looking at it, but I'm not looking at the money. The money is not the determining factor of the action I'm going to take today.
Yeah.
Right. I just had my days laid out to where no matter the results that are happening in my life right now, this is the action I'm taking every day. And going through that, I also, especially as you're starting a company, it's like, all right, after you get to that end of that first year and right about now, it's like, man, am I going to be able to do it again?
Right.
Am I going to be able to make it another year? Am I going to be able to provide for my family? Like, am I going to be able to do it again? And that was something that fear was very real for me, but not like in an overwhelming, like where I'm operating out of fear. It's just there to where it's like, I know if I stop doing my thing, like I'm not owed any of this. Mm-hmm. And I'm one fucked up decision or, a month away from cutting corners of losing it all. Is what I kind of had in my mind. And then also it's like, and I also had like, I wanted to strengthen the foundation. And in my mind, it's like a big part of a foundation in a company is people, people and money, so it's like, the more people, the better the foundation and the better chance that we have at winning another year. And, I think as the success, where a lot of people will fall short is like, man, that success starts happening, that first year they make $500,000 and it's just like, poof, they just let out, I've made it. Yep. I've arrived. Yep. I'm rich and I'm on top of the world.
They think to themselves, this is what normal is going to feel like.
Right. Yeah. I've made it. I'm here, and just think that we can just coast. And I just like had the mindset like, man, like I have to wake up and diligently protect it, and through my actions, if I don't suit up and show up today, somebody's going to come take my spot from me. Yeah. And I still have that mindset. But, as I was going to how can everybody retire off of this, cause I feel like at that moment, a lot of people right there are going to be like, man, why risk all this other stuff? Why do all this other stuff? Like, man, me and my family will be okay. Like we'll be good in 5 or 7 years. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to have whoever, like, I'm going to take care of whoever's working with me and I'm going to get there and, we'll be okay. And I think, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that person. Right. For me, with where I came from and how like insane that is that I'm here, I feel like I have a debt that I can never repay. Mm. But the only way that I'm going to be able to come close at repaying that debt is by giving it away. Mm. And when I mean giving it away, I mean giving that level of life away to somebody, and showing them how to do it. And man, it's really important for me. I don't give a fuck about in this matter, I don't give a about the result. None of that. It's very important for me to know that I'm doing my part. Like, I just want to know I'm doing my part.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I want to be able to look myself in the mirror and say, I'm proud of you. I know you did your part today and you left it on the field. At the end of the week, the end of the year, at the end of the life, I want to hear good, well done, good and faithful servant. You know, and so it's just like, regardless, I just have to know I'm doing my part. And I feel like if there's more left on the plate, man, like I gotta see what's there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I think playing that way, you're going to get to a point, like all of us are at some point, where you do have to face and look back on how you lived your life, and you're either going to be full of regret or you're going to know that you emptied the tank, right? Like, and I know many guys who are incredibly wealthy, but also have more in the tank.
Right.
And they became incredibly wealthy and they kind of just stopped.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I know some of those guys are second, you know, they're older now, a little bit older
Right.
now, and they're starting to second guess themselves.
Yeah.
Could I have done this better?
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
I think that's one thing that I appreciate about you is you really do play all in with, you know, on that side of things where it's like, you're gonna get to a spot at some day and you're gonna look back and you're gonna be like, yeah, did I make some mistakes? Okay. But also learn from them. I pivoted and I played real hard right after that. Right. You know?
Yeah.
So I think
that's huge.
Yeah.
And I think it all falls back to being like seduced by the success, you know,
Yeah.
and like just so many people let the good rob us from great.
Mm-hmm.
But what they don't tell you is that is why you're taking the good and passing up on the great. What they don't tell you from that, as you're settling for this, I'm also going to start pushing you back to where you came from.
Right.
Because you're not fighting anymore.
That's right.
You know, and you've lost that desperation. You know, as we were coming, like all the years of scaling, like I feel like it's obviously a massive mindset thing. But like knowing if I'm going to scale this company, I really need to become a leader who creates leaders who creates leaders. And not just saying that because it's a cool thing to say, but really genuinely doing that. And that was like, especially like early on is just like, okay, what does a sales manager look like?
Right.
What do team leads look like?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what does that comp structure look like? What does this look like? And I'm like essentially having to train my replacements because I'm working every role up. And I really had to be intentional about creating breathing room for high functioning leaders.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It was like, I remember it like, you know, we've been doing disc assessment for the last 2.5 years.
Yep.
And you showed me how to do that. And I remember, like, for instance, like with Adam's disc assessment came in.
Yep.
And you're like, dude, if you don't just create an amazing opportunity for this guy and keep this, he's going to go start his own thing.
Right.
But if you do this, like, it could really be amazing. And that's exactly, you know, what happened. And so, but just making sure that we're creating breathing room for those high functioning leaders.
Mm-hmm.
If we say that's what we really want, one, we have to become that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if ever we're ever looking to scale a company or whatever that is, it's like, okay, this is where I want to go, and what's that going to take from me? And knowing, like, who do I need to make this happen?
Yeah.
Who do I need to become to make this happen? And if I have a big target, I need several badass leaders. Like, what type of leader do I need to be able to come to attract them?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yep.
I think that's a big thing.
That is a big thing. And with guys that I've talked to in the past that get stuck and they can't figure out why they can't scale to the next level, it is typically and most commonly that right there as to why they can't do it. Right? Because they tried to hop over, learn. So when I started in sales. I had to eventually learn operations. Now I'm not operationally geared by any means, but I had to learn it, right? I had to learn how to do QuickBooks, and I had to learn how to run production, and I had to learn all that shit. And the only way for me to be able to scale and grow the business that I had was I had to sit in all the seats, right? So that I could talk to people from a space of integrity and say, here's how you do the thing. Now, does that mean I have to be a master at all these things? No, but I need to have enough knowledge about it to have a conversation about it in integrity with it, right? So I meet a lot of guys where they're like, man, I really just can't figure out why I can't get to this next level. And it's like, because you're sitting inside telling people to do things that you haven't done and you don't really know how to do. And they can sense that there's no integrity there.
Right.
So if you get your hands dirty and they see you get your hands dirty, they're going to get their hands dirty with you.
Right.
But if you're just trying to be the boss that wants to show up all shiny and clean every day, they stop believing you.
Right. I think this is, man, it just made me think like with this of knowing how important it is to know the level that we are on. And I just feel like nowadays, especially in the world with social media, it's, people just try to make it look so easy and make it look like it's just easy. And also will make it look like, that like there's something that they're actually not, that they're more successful than they actually are, or whatever the case may be, and or fall into just this bad patterns of comparing, right? Like they might be looking at us or whoever, and it's like, well, man, I feel like I'm doing all right, but like, man, I'm looking at this person and I'm not where they are. And it's so like our true only competition is us from yesterday. But when we fall in like comparing to ourselves to that, it's like, okay, you might have had a $2 or $3 million year, which might be freaking amazing, right? The absolute best year ever for you. But then you look at, like, you hear me say a $52 million year is like, oh man, I can't even, like, I'm not doing something right because I'm not there. It's like, no, you're exactly where you're supposed to be.
That's exactly right.
And just really making sure we're not comparing to others, and assessing where we're actually at. Like, what level are we actually on? And really, like, what do the facts say?
Yep.
What's that P&L look like? Like all the way across, like what are the details of this thing? And that's how we got to know where we're starting from to get to know where we're going.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people, they're just scared to look at where they're really starting. They don't want to own where they're starting from. They want to like, oh, well, I think I'm, this, or, our finances are good or reserves or whatever. They don't really want to look at the facts and really pull back that rug and look at whatever the thing is. And man, one thing that I realized, the faster I can pull back that rug and look whatever that is, it's 99% of the time, it's way smaller than whatever the I cooked up in my head.
Yep.
Yep. So I think that's the first and foremost, that honest assessment of self of actually what level are we currently on? Because I feel like a lot of people is like, they're trying to all right, start this business, get this up going. Okay, now how do I get out of here?
Right.
Oh
yeah,
you
right.
guys got this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll fall into that space so quick.
Yeah.
And next thing, it's just that's the beginning of it.
I made that mistake.
Yeah.
I mean, there was definitely a time in my life where I got to a space where I didn't feel like I needed to be in the office anymore, and it was way premature.
Yeah.
It was way premature, right?
Yeah.
I had really good leaders in place and doing a really good job, but in reality, those leaders needed mentorship from me.
Right.
And I just kind of abandoned them.
Yeah.
So I feel that for sure.
Yeah.
So if one of these people are listening right now and they're like, okay, they're pretty clear about where they are. How do you know, or how do they know, like, when am I actually ready to start scaling this thing? I mean, I get that. I used to get that a lot. Like, is it time to scale it now? I'm doing like $3 million a year, $5 million a year. What do I need to be able to scale it? That kind of thing.
So I think we're always scaling.
Yeah.
I feel like we're always, if we're always scaling, we're always growing, we're always recruiting, always thing. But one thing, because it's essentially we doubled every year, and then then we tripled one year and then doubled again. And so with that being said, I feel like you can get to certain points, and in our industry, it's a 10 or 15-ish million. I say 10 million. You can get there kind of like just sloppily. You don't really have to have systems and processes that dialed in.
Yep.
You can just kind of do it sloppily. And but then going to that next level, that 20, that 25 million, it's just all about systems and processes. And I just think, like, if we're talking about scaling from 1 to 3 million, I think it just comes like, just do it. Just like do it. And it's never going to be a perfect scenario or a perfect storm, where I see a lot of people fall short. It's like, okay, I want to scale my business. Okay, why do you want to scale your business? Talk about that. I said, okay, scaling your business when you're doing this is why is this important for your team to do? It's like, what, all of the things.
Yep.
Why is this important for you? But it's like they really don't have any idea why they want to do it. They just think that it's because they're supposed to. But I truly do believe, like, a business is a living, breathing, like, thing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's if we don't direct it.
Yes.
And intentionally, it's going to go somewhere. It's going to move. It's going to head in a direction. We just have to be intentional about making sure it's the right direction. But we'll just think it's like, oh, I can't do this because I got to figure this, and this out before we do that. And just like get into the state of like, almost like they're paralyzed,
Yep.
you know, with all of the what ifs and the fears. And it's like, man, I just stay in the state. It's like, if I can get the 75% figured out, I can figure out that other 25% through the process.
Yep.
And just going, you know. But I really truly believe, you know, it all starts with that leader, you know, and really, if I'm the leader of this, like, what am I doing? Like, am I staying disciplined? Where's my life at?
Mm-hmm.
And am I committed to my, like, doing what I say I'm going to do? Do I have like good discipline? Do I have a good foundation for living that I'm going to be able to handle all of the pressure, all the stress, all the things that come with this, but also, am I at a level that I can like lead and inspire others?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yep.
and to where it's like, I've been through this, I've worked through these things, I've looked at myself, I've developed myself, and now I can help you do the same.
I think one of the hardest things, and again, just speaking from that I had to learn early on was like, I got to give these people a reason to want to do this, right?
Yeah.
I got to give them, I can't tell you how many guys I've been in their company and I'm just like, there's no, and I hated to be that way, but I'm like, there's no reason here.
Right.
There's no purpose here.
Yeah.
The purpose, if the purpose is just money, it's not enough, right? Like there's got to be we got to have a mission that they're willing to show up and fight for you on. And also they want to see you fighting.
Right.
Like they want to see you fighting for them and they'll fight for you, right?
Right.
It can't just be one-sided,
Right.
you know, kind of thing. It can't be like they're fighting their asses off and you're making a lot of money and you're doing the money and they're trying to figure out why they're not making as much money as they feel like that they should make them, but you're over here doing and they're working their asses off.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I just bring some of these scenarios into the fold to get your take on them because I'm
Yeah.
like, you know, how I mean, you know, take an example of BJR. How deep is the purpose here?
Right. I feel like it's deep.
That's real deep.
And you know, I feel like the deepest purpose is, like I was saying this morning, is like us all to acquire the best quality of life, us all to reach our dreams. And, you know, but like going back, like off what you were saying, you know, I feel like a lot of leaders, company owners do this. And like, you know, whether it be like with the comp structures or the information, you know, like trying to keep these secrets, you know, and
yeah, scarcity minded.
yeah. And I operated that way for the first couple of years, but then I saw that wasn't working and the result I was getting from that. And, you know, as we were going on, and when I just like put it all out there,
Yeah.
like this is it. It's all open books. There's no
Yeah.
secrets. This is it. And just having that genuineness, and not just like with our books inside the company, but also like just with me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And just that genuineness and that authenticity. It just gave me a really good amount of leadership equity, you know, and that they could relate to, you know. It's like, I don't know, when I shared my story this morning, you know, some of these people just know me as I am today. Most of them do. Just know me as I am today. Really successful, like really good looking, you know.
Got to throw that one in there.
Yeah. But they don't know me, like, man, like I was homeless 6 years ago,
Yeah.
6.5 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, they don't know like all of that. And so it's like, and I put that out there, like, to this isn't how I've always been. And it's like, I've had to work really hard and diligently and stay open-minded and all of the things, right? And I put that out there, is like, because it doesn't matter how far deep we are.
Yeah.
It's like there's always a solution. But going back to scaling the business, you know, I had to get really clear on, you know, with whatever that position is, but we're going to use the sales position. I had to get really clear on who I was looking for, right? I had to get really clear on what does my avatar look like?
Yep.
And what am I looking for, and what am I going to tolerate? Where's
Right.
my tolerance level?
Right.
You know, and you know, I had over the years, you know, I've got the opportunity to work with a lot of incredible people, you know, but there's sometimes that people will essentially halt their success. They'll bottleneck their company because they don't want to remove that person or hire that person or whatever the case may be, you know. But every instance, the reason that being is because we've gained unhealthy loyalties,
Right.
you know, to whatever that is, and probably amount of fear that's
Yep.
like, oh, I don't think it can operate without them.
Yep.
I've definitely been there.
Yep.
But as soon as I made the did put the business first and made the decisions that needed to be made, man, it was like, again, more leadership equity, but like, I don't know, just so many people stepped up every time, and it always shone. So it's like a lot of people stepped up and just grew to another level of leadership when those removals were made, you know. And it's like, so with that being said, like, I just had to put, like, kind of beat into my head, the longer I hang on to them, I'm just blocking the next bigger, better version of them from coming in.
Right.
And I'm slowing everybody else down in here as well.
Right.
And it was a lot easier for me to say that than to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I actually did, man, it's exactly how it happened. And, you know, but I think a lot of people, like I said, I operated in that space for a while. And when, at the end of the day, it's like the entity is what's special.
Right.
You know, it's not one person.
Right.
And if we fall to that one person, that's when we start, I feel like, devaluing our company and what makes it like really special.
How hard was that though? Like, that was hard, right? Like, because I think that's a really good lesson to kind of just pinpoint for everybody listening. Not all the people that are going to start with you are going to be the people that grow with you.
Correct.
Right? Everybody has their own, every individual has their own level of comfortability. They have their own level of complacency. They have a spot where eventually they're going to want to stop. They're not going to want to go to the next thing or whatever. And if you're not careful, you become loyal to the person and not loyal to the growth or the vision of the company, and you stop.
Right.
The company stops because you're like, oh, well, this person doesn't want to go any further, so I don't want to make them uncomfortable. They did a lot of things for me to get us here.
Right.
You know, that whole thing, right? So
yeah, that's it's like they say, not everybody will be with you for life. Some people are just seasons. Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah.
You know,
we're stewards, right? That's our job.
Right. So. And that was like somebody said that to me early on, and I was like, damn, that sounds like a little harsh.
Yeah.
But it's so true, is that you can't fall in love with any one person more than the vision. It's like, we're either in alignment or we're not.
Right.
You know, and that was something that, you know, it was just hard. It was hard to work through. And but man, I don't know, the payoff when you actually are able to have that faith and trust and commitment towards the direction you're pushing in, it's like, man, I feel like the universe rewards that.
Yeah, it does.
You know, God, the universe.
Yep.
It's like when you say you trust me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if you say you have the faith to move this mountain will be moved, it's going to be moved.
Yeah.
And so, but we just have to have that faith too.
I used to say this thing that success doesn't reward the wrong people. Obviously, someone before me has said that. But I think sometimes those cliche things get tossed out and people don't elaborate on what that means. And what that means to me is every level requires you to do certain things. And when you do the things required at that level, success opens the door to the next level. If you don't do the things or you try to short circuit the things in that level, you're just going to keep repeating that level. You're not going to be able to go to that next level. And sometimes those things are purposefully challenging, like letting someone go that's been with us for a long time, or having to make a decision that puts us way out of our comfort zone or whatever. But that's call it God, you know, whatever you want to be in my world, your world. That's kind of God saying to me, are you going to trust me to take this step, or are you not? Are you going to trust yourself and hold on to it and try to remain in control? Are you actually going to take a step forward, right? So I look at that as like, that's God's favor when I do what I'm being commanded to do, whether I like it or not, how it feels, super uncomfortable. If I do it and I surrender, which is a great word that you use a lot, that door tends to open. Yeah. Right. I mean, so yeah.
It's just like, when we get out of the way, you know, man, because it's like, but like a lot of people will try to cheat those levels.
Yeah, they do.
Know, and
because they're painful.
Right.
Sometimes. Yeah.
And it's like, are just thinking there's got to be an easier, softer way, or whatever the case may be, or I'm smarter and more talented and skilled than you guys, so I'm not going to have to put in all the hard work that you did. I'm a little bit smarter than that, and I've literally never seen it work out the way that it's supposed to. It always comes crashing down. You know, but you know, it's like as we scaled year over year, man, I think for me, one of the biggest things is I have to have a strong spiritual foundation, because it's a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
And
for sure,
I would break personally. I would break it. It's just too much. But because there's too much out of my control. You know, there's too many what ifs and what if fears. On a side note, you're saying this as my favorite definition of fear is self-reliance having failed us.
Wow.
Self-reliance having failed us. And that's a mentor of mine. He'll ask me all the time. He's like, you know, what are you being reliant on other than God? You know, what is your reliance on other than God right now?
Yeah.
And it always just pulls me back in.
Yeah, it's true. It's like somebody said to me, like, if you go outside and you walk in the dark, you're not actually afraid of the dark. What are you afraid of? What could be in the dark? Right. So, and that's exactly what you're saying. That's me being afraid of not trusting God and being afraid of what could be there more than trusting God. Right. There's a healthy fear and there's an unhealthy fear, obviously. Yeah. But you know, so anyway.
So as I'm going through this, like, man, there's several levels, right? As somebody scaling a business, you know, anybody can start a business.
Yeah.
Literally anybody. It takes 30, 45 minutes, you know, get online, but very few can keep it going and growing. Very few.
Yep.
And so it's like, we're talking about getting started, you know, going from $1 million to 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, 20 million, so on and so forth. Man, at a certain level, I have to really, as we're trying to figure out how to word this, when we were going from 5 to 10 and then 10 to 30, I really needed people to own their departments, you know, instead of, and not just like somebody doing production or somebody doing, you know, ordering or schedule. Like, I needed people to own it. And like, this
I got it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, and like where you want, this is your baby, you know, and I think that's something over the years I needed to, at the beginning, it was just my baby.
Yeah.
You know? Yep. And I just started, and I used to say this in meetings all the time, but it's like, I started looking at branded BJR as its own, and as just a toddler. It's like, okay, who are we going to allow around this toddler? Who's going to take care of this toddler? Because if we're not going to, no one is.
Right.
And just started looking at it as that. But having the own, like letting these people fail their way forward and really that's the only way. And I got to sit back and let them do it. And I'm there to help them step in, but I cannot step in and take it and fix it for them.
Right.
Because then I've robbed them of that experience. Right. And of the experience that was going to give them the confidence to push through in the future. Yeah. And really have that ownership. Like, I fucked this up, I fixed it, and now I'm going to own it. Yeah. You know? And it just kind of it was a little bit of a brutal process for me to watch sometimes, but the end result of these people like truly having ownership and care. It's like, I don't have to, you know, if this person's supposed to have something done by 4 or 5 o'clock and say, Sydney, I need it by tomorrow. I don't have to wonder if I'm going to get it. Right. Like I know without a shadow of a doubt, I'm going to get that, you know, or something terrible is going to or something terrible happen. But so with that being said, just giving people the room to fail their way forward. You know, and not thinking like, oh, if it's going to be done right, it's going to be done up to me. Right. You know, that's one of the worst mindsets you could have as a business owner. Yeah.
It's like you fucked it up on the way.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Isn't it funny sometimes as business owners, we're like, don't do. I mean, I'm talking about me. There was definitely a period of time when I was younger for sure, where I was like, God, I can't believe you would do that. Just, all right, I got it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, the expectations that we're expecting them not to fuck it up, but we fucked it up in order to get here to even know how to do the thing. Right. Yeah. So yeah, that's funny that, you know, that is a spot definitely where, I've seen you grow, where you're just like, you know, like, you want to take control of it, but you know that the outcome is going to be greater if you release it and allow them to have control over it, make the mistake, learn the thing. And you're really damn good at like not jumping people's asses for that. You know what I mean? Because I've been in other organizations where it's like, immediately when the mistake happens, there's grace given, but there's also scolding that happens, you know, or guilt that happens. Yeah. So,
yeah, no, that was, man, I just feel like we're never, very rarely, if ever, going to do it perfect. Yeah. And it's like, it's one thing if it's a true mistake. It's a whole other thing. It's like pattern behavior. Right. You know what I'm saying? But one thing I want like talk about kind of like that I want to make sure that we hit on, you know, when it comes to like scaling, right? And starting a company and wanting to scale a company, we almost have to detach from the money essentially.
Yep.
You know, to where it's just a thing, and it's just a tool of how we're going to move forward. Because it's, you know, when it comes down to it, man, and if you don't have the stomach for risk, you might not want to be an entrepreneur. But you know, at the end of the day, it's the money isn't your money. You know, it's like, okay, cool. Or the bank account might be sitting on $1 million or whatever that is, but that's not your money. You know, or you guys might have did 3 or 4 or 5 million in revenue, but that's not your money.
Right.
It's so, and just knowing like what that actually means, you know, how much, what's your salary? What is your take?
Right.
You know, it's crazy. You ask some business owners like, well, how much do you make? I have no idea.
Right.
You know, they don't have any idea. They're just scraping money off the top when they can.
Right.
You know, and that's just insane.
Right.
To me. But it's like really having that scheduled out to where you know exactly, you know, how much you're earning and you know where the funds are allocated for. You know, it's not, there's no extra money.
And bro, especially in the world of contracting, it's so easy to misappropriate funds.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, you know, jobs can lag out, or, you know, you're not, like you're saying, you're not, I think one of the big things, if we went to a conference today and we were in a room full of, I don't know, 5,000 contractors, and we're like, how many of you guys have an accurate P&L and can tell me exactly what your EBITDA is right now?
Yeah.
I bet maybe 10 raise their hand.
Right.
Like realistically,
Yeah.
right? Because they know how to make the money. They don't
Yeah.
know how to be a good steward of the money.
Right. I'm really glad you just brought that up, because I feel like that's a huge issue in the contracting space.
Yes.
And where, like you said, they know how to make it, but there's not a lot of business sense there.
Yeah.
And maybe there's ego there that's stopping them from getting the help that they need. You know,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
whenever I hired our first full-time accountant a year in,
Right.
you know, and it's like, and I had to know what those numbers look like. I just had to know what the facts of it were. And I knew that I needed to get, like, I'm not good at this. Like I'm okay, but I need to hire somebody who's way better than me, you know? And that's what I did. But I just feel like, again, a lot of people have this fear of whatever the reason is, and let this money think it's actually more than it is. You know, it's like, okay, what is your business, you know, what does it take for your business to run a month?
Yeah.
You know, with what does it cost for it to run a month? And if you didn't bring another dollar in after today, like, could you guys run a month? You know, could you run 2 months? Could you run 3 months? Like, what exactly does that look like? But going off back to scaling the business, you know, having clear targets of what you're pursuing, and it's one thing to have that target. It's a whole other thing to make sure we're taking our actions and making decisions based off of that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, okay, we're at 5 million and we're going to 10 million. Okay. How many projects is that? How many trucks is that? What does that marketing spend look like?
Yep.
You know, and having to do that, like on that front end investment, you know, and that's where I feel like a lot of people fall short. You know, they'll write their targets out and they want to scale their business. And yeah, this is our big target that we want to hit. And we're just going to keep doing what got us here. And that's it.
That's not going to work.
Right. We're wanting to go to 10 million, but we're going to keep our marketing budget at a $5 million company.
Right.
And it's really making sure, falling into alignment with making sure our actions and decisions are in alignment with that.
Yeah.
And most people can do that physically, emotionally. They have a really hard time doing it financially.
Yeah.
You know, and really betting on themselves. So I think that's one of the big things, is just having that clear defined target and breaking it down in great detail of what it's going to take to do that.
Yeah. One of the things that that makes this project like so much fun to work in, and the scaling side of it, is that I would say you do a hell of a job in managing or limiting the amount of unknowns, right? And I would say the tracking is deep, right? And I think a lot of guys don't understand, you know, so I always looked at this as kind of like a sport, right? So if we looked at the difference between high school baseball and Major League Baseball, okay, just as an example, how much gets tracked in Major League Baseball?
Right.
Every fucking thing. How long does it take you to walk to the plate? How long does it take you to get ready to hit? When you swing, how fast is your bat?
Right.
How fast is the ball when you make contact? I mean, it's it's down to the gnat's ass thing. And
Yeah.
right. So to me, when the guys are like, I want to scale, but the tracking mechanisms they have in their company are high school level,
Right.
not major league level, I'm like, this is going to be catastrophic.
Yeah.
Because you have to know, and it's not all the things, but it's a lot of the things, right? We know the metrics on a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And in real time.
Yeah.
Right. And that was one thing when I came in and started working with you, I was like, damn, this is the deepest tracking I've seen out of most companies without, like you being way farther along. Right. So I knew that was going to definitely, but what stage were you when you were like, we got to start tracking more shit?
Yeah. So the first year when I was doing the jobs like myself, I kept a notebook and I would break down the entire job.
Okay.
And just exactly what was made off of it, and I would just keep it in this notebook, right? And obviously I couldn't keep doing that for too long, but I knew I needed to see those numbers for whatever reason I had in my mind. Like I just had to see the numbers, and I hired I hired our accountant, and the very first 3 things I had her start tracking was our sales for the month, what we actually built that month, and then what we closed out that month.
Okay.
And so those are like the 3 core things, but I had her start doing that probably a year and a half in.
Yeah.
And which was huge, definitely as we went into the private equity deal, having all of that. I don't know, man, because I just had to see the facts, like the numbers of it. And I'm probably one of the very few, like I want to update a P&L weekly,
right?
And sometimes a couple times a week. And just so we can catch anything, if there's an issue, we can catch it before it turns to a real problem. And it's just our pulse, and how we're doing. And, but that was like, we talked in scaling, we talked about having that clear defined target and getting in alignment. And I mean, breaking down in detail what it's going to take for us. If we're going after an $80 million target, it's this many projects, it's this many sales consultants, it's this many people in production, it's this how fast we want the jobs done. It's like broken down to every little detail we can think of as much as we can.
Yep.
And how we're going to step forward in that. So if you're not in the roofing or home service industry, it can be whatever industry you're in. It's just got to be broken down in detail and start taking action daily, in alignment with that. But knowing man, I just feel like a lot of people will tap out so easy at that 5 to 10 million mark, and maybe at that 15, and just stop right there and just seduced by the success, comfort, they've arrived, whatever the case may be. When it's like, man, you're just at, like, if you would just double down and keep the new guy mentality, it's like you're just barely scratching the surface.
Yeah.
And that's the mindset that I've kept all along the way and still try to keep to this day, is just that new guy mentality. At the very beginning when I was starting when we were starting a roofing, I went and knocked on every roofing company's door in our area that would sit down with me. And I'd ask to sit down with the owner and just ask them, what are you guys charging? I had a list of questions.
Yeah.
And they would answer some of them, and some of them they'd tell me to get lost. But I just had that ego completely set aside. And it's like I still have that same mindset today, and I'm still knocking on companies' doors. They're just way bigger doors.
Yeah. And,
it's like, I think a lot of people will fall into the space like they've made it, they've arrived. It's like, I got this, I'm going to show y'all how it's supposed to be done. And just next thing you know, it's like they're sliding backwards. When it's like, I've just really been intentional about keeping the new guy mentality. And it's like, man, we're just the new guys on this level.
Yeah.
It's like, we've never been here before, and we're the new guys on this level. So we got to stay more coachable. We got to stay more willing. We got to stay, whatever it takes. It's just what you got to do. And I feel like, again, a lot of people will get to this place and it's like, man, I made it.
Yeah.
I'm here, and just completely let off the gas, stop learning new things, stop being curious, Yeah. And it's sad when you see it, because it's like, man, you didn't see it, but you stopped digging, and little do you know,
there's gold on the other side.
Yeah, 2 feet, 2 feet down, you would have struck gold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the cool thing now, this podcast is one resource, but I think the cool thing now is like, when I was trying to scale many, many years ago, there just weren't the resources that are available to people now, right? And so I'm really excited for what we're working on for this year. And part of that excitement is like we're really not alone.
Right.
Like there are dudes we can reach out to that you and I both know that if we hit a wall somewhere or whatever, we don't have to marinate in that spot very long. We just have to be humble, set the ego aside, and be like, hey guys, we're kind of stuck here for a second.
Yeah.
Can you guys give us a heads up on what we're doing here? So I think that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. And what's cool about that, like too, and I agree with you 100%. What's cool about that is every person that there's not a person in my contacts that I would call and they would say, oh, I'm not telling you that.
Right. Of course.
Or I don't have time for you.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to bother them with this, or they wouldn't tell me that. And it's like every person I know that's winning on any significant level is almost like eager to help somebody and to show somebody. It's like, man, I've been through that. And I feel like because the people that are really winning, it's like they know the power in giving and being of service and helping others.
Yeah. I think there's a responsibility in that.
100%
I think
is
that comes
responsibility.
with part of this, right? Like we do have to help guys. Also, too, I would like to. I mean, you picked you've been doing this for a long time. Like, you said you've been, swinging the hammer for a long time and things like that. I'd like to be able to, at some point in time in my life, reach out to a younger guy and watch him do it in half the time.
Right.
You know, just because we can pour into that person.
Yeah.
And they're like, how do I do this without fucking up, doing all the mistakes you guys
Right.
made?
Yeah.
I'll probably write a book on that shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I don't know, man. I agree. Yes, I agree with you, and I want to give it all away because I truly do believe that is that number. In order to keep it, we got to give it away.
Yeah.
And I mean that within the levels of life. But I also
I know where you're going. Yeah.
I also believe, like, man, that we also have to go through to really. I know I did, obviously.
Yeah.
Probably a little more hard-headed than most. But it's like, man, I had to beat my head off that wall multiple times and I had to keep running around that same level, which was extremely low. I had to keep running that around so I learned the lessons.
Yeah.
I had to go through my go-through to learn those lessons. And first and foremost, realize I don't fucking know everything.
Yeah.
And that it just be coachable. And that you don't have it all figured out, and that's okay. And as soon as I was able to really just swallow that pride, and it's like, man, there's like nobody's got it all figured out. Everybody's just figuring it out, And it's like, because I remember looking at, as I was getting started, looking at companies that were way up here about where we are now. And it's like, man, I bet they got it all figured out, And it's like, it's really, everybody's just figuring it out, And just some are better at figuring it out than others because they're more aware of real time, of their actions, everything that's going on. But yeah, I mean, I think it's like when we can say coachable, humble and coachable and willing, it's like in today's social media and just people are just willing to help, and there's so much free content out there.
Mm-hmm. Just be careful to ask for help from the dudes that are actually doing something and not the ones that aren't.
That's definitely vet the people, whoever you're following, definitely whoever you're taking suggestions or coaching from. Vet those people, man, and make sure you're really working with people that have done the thing. That I know there's evidently a big thing on social media. It's a lot of the several influencers went down for fraud.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah. And it's like it just taking people's money, and it's like I don't know. We're not asking for any money. We're strictly just sharing our experience and trying to give you guys as much value as we possibly can. We've done some pretty big things, and it's and got to a level in life I never thought in a million years would be at. And I truly do believe in order to keep it, we got to give it away. And this is just our part of giving it away. And so we want to give you as much nuggets as we possibly can. But I strongly urge you, whether it be us or anyone else, man, vet your people you're following, vet your coaches, and make sure they're actually the real deal and they are who they say they are.
Yeah. So listen, if you guys want to hear more about this, you guys want us to get deeper, we're happy to do it. You guys can send us an email at wit@brandonjroofing.com. Just say, hey, you guys touched on this thing and I have more questions about it. We get those emails, we look at them. We'll definitely do some Q&A around those types of things with you guys. But as always, we appreciate you guys. Again, please like, comment, share, get this stuff out. If you guys are on iTunes, please make sure that you leave us a review, write a little something, hey, I listened to this podcast, I got something from it, so on and so on. That'd be really great for us. So until next time, we really appreciate you guys, and thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, thanks. Love you guys. One thing I want to say is what you did to get here will not be what you do to get there. You'll do your core fundamental stuff, but you guys stay in that mindset. The we did to get here will not be what we do to get there. Hope you guys have a great week. We love you. I'll talk to you soon.
Welcome to it. This life is built, not fake. We do whatever it takes. Welcome to